Hello everyone. Sorry, I was eating chocolate covered peanut. This is my journey to Islam. That's the video by Sajid. Is that Lifham? Let's say it's wrong, but this video is sponsored by YouBuyWeRush. As you see, I clicked on the thumbs up. If you could do that for my videos, that'd be great. That helps. You can also subscribe if you'd like the content. And if you want to sponsor a video, you can click on the thanks button. You don't have to donate, and you don't have to request a video if you do. All right? Let's get ready to the video. This is going to be two parts, two 16-minute videos.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Sajid Lifham. I'm from Maryland, and I'm currently a student at the Islamic University of Medina. So I grew up on a military base called Fort Meade. It's not too far from Baltimore, not too far from Washington, D.C.
Named after, I'm going to guess, George Gordon Meade, who is the Union Civil War general who helped win the Battle of Gettysburg.
For those of you who aren't really familiar regarding what it's like growing up on a military base, it's actually a pretty nice environment for families. It's not like a wealthy upper class environment, but you don't have any of the problems that you find in a lot of the lower class communities in America. There's no like drugs, and there's not like a bunch of crime and stuff like that. It's just you have a lot of soldiers living together in close quarters. A lot of people have families. There's lots of kids around. And you also grow up around lots of different types of people, lots of different ethnicities. It's a very diverse environment. Everyone's an American. Everyone is just living together. And I just remember growing up playing sports all the time. That's really what kept me out of trouble. Throughout the year, I was playing basketball, soccer, baseball, taekwondo. I was just always exerting all of my energy into being an athlete in one way or another. Then at the end of the day, after school, after sports, I would...
Sorry, I just did a quick check just to make sure that I wasn't lying to anyone. Fort Meade is a census designated place in Maryland. Population is 9,327 in 2010. It's the home of the NSA, the CSS, the United States Cyber Command, and the Defense Information System Agency, which are located on the U.S. Army post Fort George G. Meade. George Gordon Meade. Okay. I want to double check.
Watch cartoons, play video games, listen to music, that sort of thing. So I had a nice childhood in that regard. As far as religion is concerned, I was raised Protestant, and I had a very, very firm belief in God as a child. In Islam, we understand that there's something called a fitra, meaning that every child is born with this innate belief in God. And I even remember when I was young, my mother, she taught me how to pray. There was a prayer that I would say every night. I would say, Father in heaven, hear my prayer. Keep me in thy loving care. Watch over me in all I do, and bless all those who love me too. And then I would pray for my parents, my sister, my family, and friends. And I remember when my mom taught me this prayer, how I wasn't really taught about God, about his existence, about his names and attributes, but I knew he existed. And it was this really strange feeling. I was like, you know, I don't remember being taught the specifics about God, but I know he exists. It's just something that we all seem to know and understand. Before I even knew what a fitra was, I remember this. And I remember how natural it was for me to understand certain facts about the Creator, about how he was above us, about how he was beyond our comprehension. He was all-knowing, all-powerful. I remember just knowing these things without even being taught them. And throughout my childhood, I always prayed to God. I believed in God. And this was just sort of something that was natural for me growing up. Now, of course, as I got older, I got more mature. I had more complex questions. So I remember one day I asked the question, I asked about Jesus. We'd always hear about Jesus, about him being the Son of God, but at the same time we were all God's children, so I never worshiped Jesus, I never prayed to Jesus. I always sort of felt like he was this prophetic figure, but as I got older I wanted to understand more in depth, so I remember asking, what is this situation with Jesus and the Trinity and God and the Son of God? And I was told that, well, Jesus is the Son of God, he died on the cross for your sins. If you believe in him, then you will go to heaven in the hereafter. So that night, as I was going to bed and I said my prayers, I remember saying to God, God, I believe in Jesus, I believe he died for my sins, please enter me into heaven. And it felt kind of weird, but I wasn't really one at that point to question, my authority figures, the people older than me, my parents and stuff like that. I trusted their judgment, and I thought, okay, well, I guess that's it, I'm going to heaven. So around this time, I'm getting older, you start going through adolescence, and I did have like a children's Bible. I remember sort of reading through it. It was just very sort of confusing, unclear. And now that I believe that I was going to heaven, that Jesus died for my sins, it was just more about, okay, now try to just sort of enjoy your life, live your life. And I think the end of my childhood, when I started becoming a man, I started growing up, was when the transition from elementary school to middle school. That period of my life was a huge change. And it was right around the time that I had this concept in my head that, Jesus died for my sins, I'm going to heaven. So rather than try to get my values about who I should follow, how I should act from God or from a religion, I looked to just the world around me. Back then, just like today, a lot of the youth, they look up to musicians, to rappers, to celebrities, because they appear to be the successful ones, the people who the world love, the people who are rich, who are successful. That's sort of not only who I looked up to, but all of us, all of the youth, all of my friends and peers, we all seem to look up to these musicians and these celebrities regarding how to dress, how to speak, what's cool, what's right and wrong. We sort of looked up to them. They were sort of our role models. Around that time when people are going through puberty, people mature at different rates. I was still this short, skinny guy with like a high-pitched voice, and then I had some classmates who were like twice my size with beards, and they were like grown men. And I was like, man, some of these guys, they could probably kill me with their bare hands if they wanted to. So it was like a very intimidating environment to be in. And very early on, I learned a very valuable lesson. It really changed the course of my middle school experience. One day, I want to say it was probably like within the first couple weeks of school, I went to the bathroom. And when I went to the bathroom, there were these two guys fighting each other. They were really going at it. One of the guys was like really big, and the other guy, he was small, but he was strong, and he was really holding his own. And I remember going in there and seeing them fight, and I just ran out of there. I didn't want to get involved in that at all. So when I got back to the classroom, I was sort of shooken up by what I saw, and I told whoever was sitting next to me, I was like, so-and-so was fighting in the bathroom, and it looked like, such and such was getting beat up by the other guy, and they were going at it and this and that. And when I said this, the guy who I said was getting like beat up, I don't know why I said that. I guess I was embellishing a little bit, but his girlfriend heard me say that. She was like sitting behind me or something like that. So later that day at lunch, I was sitting at lunch. I had some friends that I knew from sports, from basketball teammates and stuff like that. So I was sitting with them, and this guy came up to our table with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was like, "That's him. That's the guy. He was talking about you." So this guy, he like squared up with me, and he like was ready to fight, and he was like, "Hey, I heard you were talking about me." And I was shook. I was shocked. I was like looking down like, "Nah, man, I wasn't talking about you. I don't know you, man." He's like, "Yo, you better not be talking about me," and this and that. I was like, "Nah, man, I don't know you, man. I wasn't talking about you." And I had some friends with me at that table who had my back, and one dude in particular, he was a tough guy. He wasn't somebody to mess around with, and he started yelling at this guy who was basically trying to fight me. He was like, "Man, get out of here, blah, blah, blah." They were cussing at each other, yelling at each other, and basically the guy, he proved his point. He came up to me. He was like, "Don't talk about me." My friend sort of proved a point that, hey, man, you're not going to be laying any finger on anybody at this table. You better get out of here. So, you know, what's done was done. And I became friends with that guy later on in life. But it was a very valuable lesson, man. It really taught me about the environment I was in and how careful you have to be about who you talk about, what you do, and also about what kind of friends you have, who you surround yourself with. Like, it's important that people like you, that you have friends, that people don't want to fight you and this and that. So it was just this crazy environment that I found myself in. And
I was in 7th grade, school called Mark Bills, and in the boys upstairs 2nd floor bathroom, you'd walk in and you'd turn, because there were cinder blocks, and then you turned again and open up into the bathroom. So that way nobody could just peek in and see you. You had to walk in and around a corner. And there was 2 standing urinals, and then a divider and a sit-down toilet that didn't have a door on it. You know, that's helpful. But the standing barrier had been, people would go into the bathroom and they'd just jump into it and bam. And this thing was like bent in the middle, like almost a V. Yeah, I did it too. Everybody walk in, you'd be the one who wanted to like knock it down and then be like, it was me. I came walking in just like him. I heard feet scuffling, just like on a basketball court. This is how I'm remembering it. It clearly wasn't that loud, but that's how it reminded me. I go walking in around the corner, and I heard that thing slam a couple times, so I'm just figuring there's other kids in the bathroom because I had a hall pass. I walk in, I see 2 kids bear hugging, just throwing each other around, but they're not letting go. There wasn't fists flying. One kid slams another one in there. I round the corner and I just peek in and I just stand there and I'm like, I really got to go to the bathroom. So I turn around and I go back down the hallway to go down the steps, and then on the landing turn and go down the other steps to go in the bathroom downstairs. And my teacher catches me and she goes, where are you going? I'm like, bathroom. She goes, bathroom right there. And I go, yeah, there's 2 people fighting in there. So I just keep on going, and she goes, what? I go downstairs. I'm coming upstairs. A couple teachers are there. Hey, knock it off. A couple teachers are up there, and they've got one kid up against the wall. There's like 4 teachers. And they've got one kid up against the wall, and they got their hand kind of like right here on him, and they're just saying, just calm down. He's up against the locker. They're not pushing him. They're like, just calm down, just calm down. The other kid comes out. He's got a busted up nose. Looks like a big swollen mark on his face. And they're bringing him out, and he's going, let me at him, let me at him. The other kid looks like nothing happened to him. And he's like, let me at him, let me at him. And one of the teachers goes, we're not having this. And he swings on the teacher, and I just heard, and I'm down the hall, and he clocked that teacher right here, and that teacher was like, like lost his balance, fell backwards, stumbled, fell backwards, and the one kid who he was fighting goes, damn! 2 of the other teachers that were right there, one teacher immediately grabbed him, another teacher grabbed him, they threw him to the ground, and then they just pinned him down like they were police officers. I snuck back in there. They locked the school down for an hour until the police could show up and arrest him. And then they arrested the other kid, because the first kid who got arrested for punching the teacher, they were like, yeah, you've been assaulted. He was like, yeah, I didn't do anything. He beat me up. And the other kid's like, what? So then they were like, who saw something? And they brought me up. And of course, all eyes just look at you. And the teacher's like, or the cop says, you know, and the teacher's right there, what'd you see? And I'm like, I didn't see anything. What do you mean you didn't see anything? My teacher's like, what do you mean? You said there were 2 kids fighting when you came down the hall. I was like, I don't remember that. It was so long ago. The teacher's like, yeah, it was like 20 minutes ago. And I'm like, yeah, it's a long time. I don't remember what I didn't even see anything. I don't even remember walking in there, to be honest. I didn't see anyone throwing anyone up against that. at all. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, okay. So I go home later that day, and of course the teacher's just like, but you know, you can't, you snitch on kids, you get in trouble. Especially in that neighborhood, in that school. People got beat up a lot. I go home, my mom and dad pull me aside and they're like, why didn't you tell what you saw? I'm like, because I'm not facing that trouble in school. My mom and dad were so mad at me, but then my mom's like, I'd rather him get yelled at here than snitch on somebody in school and come home with a black eye, so we'll just drop it. So I kind of understand what he's talking about.
Rather than going to school and focusing on, I need to get this education and pass my classes and this and that, there was so many other crazy social things going on around me in terms of fights and in terms of being cool and popular or not, and getting picked on and bullied, and about girls and guys and people acting like, we're like 11 and 12 years old, people acting like, oh, you gotta, be promiscuous, you gotta sleep around and get girls, or you're lame and this, and it was just this crazy environment.
I was in 6th grade, this is a year before that previous incident. There was a girl in my class who was 12 years old. She was 5.5 months pregnant. She was a runaway. She ran away from her home to her boyfriend, who was a gang member. Boyfriend was 17. Gang rules. You don't really have a girlfriend. You just have a girl that every one of your friends in that gang can have, and they all did. And they raped her. She got pregnant. She kept that baby. And I think about her often, because I had maybe like 4 or 5 months of an interaction with her. But if she's my age, then her child would be 32 years old. And at that rate, her child could probably have a 20-year-old. So, and that child could be pregnant or have a kid. She could be a grandmother or a great-grandmother, and she could be 44. It's crazy.
I found myself in, and the conclusion I really came to was that the peers and the people around me, what they considered cool, what they considered to be the right way to live and be, it was basically completely opposite to what the teachers would teach us or what our parents and the adults would tell you. So I remember during those years, it was just this serious clash between me and my parents and the teachers, and it was sort of like the more you rebelled, the cooler you were with your peers to a certain extent, and that was sort of the path I went down for, let's say, like 7th grade, 8th grade. The more I would move up in social status, the worse I would be in terms of like my grades and relationships with the adults. And it was probably the worst year of my life up until that point. And at the end of like my 8th grade, I was pretty much jaded. I was like, man, this is all fake. Everyone's fake. This whole trying to be popular, and the teachers and the students and the this and the that, it's all just lame. I was just over it by that point. So around this time, going into high school, I rather than trying to be influenced by what was popular or what my peers said was cool, or even the adults, what they were trying to say is right or wrong, I really turned to music, and that sort of became my spiritual outlet. Like, music was really sort of my religion. Programs started coming out where you could make your own music, produce it, record it. So I started turning towards that. And I learned how to just make graphics, websites, artwork, logos, write music, record music, make beats, work with other people. And that was really like my focus throughout high school, you could say. I believe that is what I wanted to do with my life. So by the time I was a senior in high school, me and some of my friends, we had been recording music over the past couple of years, and it was like, okay, well, we're seniors now, we're about to graduate, let's release some of this music. So me and my best friend, we released this album, this EP. It had like 8 tracks on it. It was all original music, original beats, artwork, lyrics, everything. So we just came to school one day and we just started, showing it to people and asking them if they wanted to buy it. And people were really impressed. I mean, this was like, we were sort of at the cutting edge of this whole technological revolution where everybody was able to record and do these things. Now this was back in like 2003, 2004 when we were putting this out. So we were sort of ahead of the curve. And when people saw what we were doing, a lot of my friends that I had known over the years through sports and through class and this and that, they were really impressed and they wanted to get involved. So I was like, man, this is really cool. People really are impressed with the quality of what we did. So then I started working with all my friends, and we put together this mixtape for the high school. And I was sort of like in charge of the whole operation. I did the graphics, the track list. I was sort of the one working with the different producers, the people who were mixing and mastering. So I put together this project, and it was very successful. And I sort of realized at that point, this is what I'm going to do with my life. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to produce albums, maybe start a record label, make my own music, record it, do the graphics, the logos. I've already done it. I know I can do it. That's what I want to do with my life. Also, I forgot to mention, this was basketball season. It was my senior year of high school, and I was hoping to maybe get a scholarship and play basketball in college. But that season, I injured my shoulder, and I had to get surgery. So I was out for the season, and basically my basketball career came to a halt. But I really wasn't worried about it, because for the first time, now I could just devote all of my time to music. I didn't have to go to practice and to games and to this and to that. I could just focus purely on music. And also, since it was my senior year, I had to think about college. And if I wasn't going to choose which college I went to based on a basketball scholarship, I had to shop around a bit and see what would be the best fit for me. So around that time, I went to a college fair that was at our high school, and I was thinking that since I love doing music, and also I love doing graphic design and websites and logos and album covers, let me study graphic design. Because even if I don't become rich and wealthy off of music, a good plan B would be to just, get a graphic design job somewhere. I could still do music in my spare time and still have like a day job and be able to pay the bills. So there was a college nearby. It was maybe 45 minutes from my house, just outside Baltimore. And they had a really nice art program. And I went and I checked out their campus. I really liked it. They had these brand new dorms. And I was like, man, I want to go here. And I remember at the time, like my uncles and everyone was telling me, like, college is the best years of your life. You have that freedom. You're around all your friends. You get to just have fun. And then after that, it's like, okay, you have to be a mature adult and get a job and raise a family and this and that. So I was really looking forward to college. So by the end of the summer, by the time I was starting college, I basically had a record label at that point with different artists. We produced an album. So I was going into college with this new album I produced. And basically, I'd say by the end of my first year at college, I basically felt like at that point, I had sort of experienced everything that I had been chasing in life. I already made several albums. I was on my own at the dorms at college, being able to do whatever I wanted to do. And I just started thinking, like, all right, so is this life? Is this what it's all about? You just making music, just trying to have fun, party, hang out with people, do this and that. Is this what the rest of my life is supposed to entail? And around that same time, my grandfather was dying of cancer. And I saw the way that really devastated my father. And I saw my grandfather on his deathbed, and just going through that whole experience, being confronted with death, realizing that our lives are going to come to an end for sure. Seeing my parents getting older, knowing that I was getting older, I finally just confronted this question that I hadn't thought about since I was maybe in elementary school. And that question was, what's the meaning of life? What's the point? Why?
I'm going to end this a little early. The next video will be a little bit longer, but I want to go back just to this point right here, where what's the meaning of life? Because I don't want to interrupt him on his next. Because you can see this is kind of a long one, so I don't want to interrupt in the middle of that. So we'll just call it there for part one. Apologies for my talking, but I want to add something if I can, and we will be back with part two. So for you, don't go anywhere. Stay in your seat. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't go to work. Call in sick. And just wait around for the next video. All right? Stay tuned. Have a good day. Have a good night. Forgot what I was supposed to say there.